Hello everyone, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, I'm going to do a watercolor painting following a motif that I'm experimenting with. The motif is a dark forest, swampy area with a nice bright bird contrast against that. So with this, the motif, the experiment is kind of playing a little bit different technical aspects, but mainly doing different color variations and seeing how they play together. I have a quarter sheet of Stonehenge Aqua. This is 100% cotton, 140-pound cold press. I'm saturating it with water. This is the large Ron Ranson Hake brush. Pretty much just use it for water application. And I've kind of settled on using my medium Hake brush. Now today's color application is going to be phthalo blue and burnt umber. Now I want to show you something. This corner of my palette right here is phthalo blue, or phthalo blue, and I had a tube, a small tube of either Van Gogh, I think it was Van Gogh brand, and it had torn. It had gotten stuck and the metal ripped, and I put it there. And that's been there for about a year now. A tube of phthalo blue goes a really long way. So I'm going to do that and burnt umber. Now, with this combination, I do have one potential concern, and it's that phthalo blue has a tendency, for me at least, to kind of push things forward in the picture plane. So I'm wondering if this experiment would eventually be better off with a background mix that is kind of cooler. Maybe ultramarine and the burnt umber, and then utilizing the phthalo blue on top of that. So we'll see. I'm not going to masking fluid where the bird will be. I will probably just use some white gouache. Last time I used some Chinese watercolor, the white Chinese watercolor, but we'll just use white gouache. All right. Working up a thick mix. Let's see. Right about here will be the very far horizon. The edge of the land I'll put in here. On the last one I did a little hook composition right here and let the bird sit on top. I think with this one, I'll just bring the land composition in on this side. I wonder why that feels weird doing that. If the other one feels more natural as like an eye stopper or something. Now, we're gonna have to use a lot, or I'm thinking a lot of burnt umber, because that blue just really takes over very quickly. And a landmass in front. Maybe we could even let the water travel up. We can shape it as we go. Anticipating putting a lot of trees in, so I'm just doing these vertical lines now as reflections of trees. Let's switch over to the number 4 rigger. Reason we're using this guy is it holds a decent amount of pigment. You okay, Percy? And I won't have to keep on dipping back and forth. Let me flatten my paper first. So the paper absorbs water. You lift up the clip, you just push down the paper. All right, now the idea here is that these would be very far distant trees. The pattern doesn't matter too much because I'm doing a kind of full really thick forest, but you could play around with openings even way back here. The conceptual thought and the technique approach that's happening is that we're going wet and wet. There will be a drying shift and there will be a diffusion, so this will lighten up and this will sit really far back. And then on top of this, we're going to layer thicker, bigger trees, and those guys are going to just help create the depth to it. And if you want, you can bring down wet and wet. Now I'll come in with the next layer. I'm going to still use this number 4 rigger. You can see how I'm moving a little bit lower. So perspective wise, this moves these line of trees closer to the viewer. And just go like that. Now, I'm going to want these trees to sit in place. They're going to have their own respective shadows and bumps in the ground. So what I'm going to do for that is just horizontal marks at the base of these trees. So there's the far background. Here's this layer. I'm creating that. Just kind of breaking it up some just to give some variety. I'll pour out some more burnt umber. Now, with the painting I did with Payne's Gray and Burnt Sienna, I used the Payne's Gray by itself in the beginning and added the Burnt Sienna as I got closer to the foreground. So I kind of hinted at that earlier, where I felt like the blue might push things forward a little bit more. So we'll see how that happens. And also in the previous one, I used a spray bottle to re-wet some areas. And I think I'm going to wind up doing that again. I have mini pulverizador, mini mister. There you go. I didn't realize I was reading it in a different language. Mini mister. And this will add an interesting texture. Pretty much out of water, out of it. I just have this guy. Bite the bullet. Just put large quantities out. Now, I'm going to continue with this line here, and I did have some other ideas. One idea is going to be completely stolen from another artist. I believe her name is Wardheim, and she posts on the Ron Ranson Disciples page that I'm a moderator for. And she had posted a landscape painting where there was an area, and she had said, you know, I was thinking about a bird or a flock of birds or something in this spot. It felt like something was missing. So she literally just splattered, whitewash in that spot. And it looked amazing. So I think that might happen here. And I do feel like that spritzing gave that effect as well. I know I mention a lot of artists often. Joe Mensa has been experimenting with extreme spray bottling. I'm not sure if he's been doing a lot of that lately, but I know that he has. And what else? Or who else? There's Rick S., who I had bought that mister, I think because he uses that mister. And that was about 3.5 years ago. I started painting. I was watching his tutorials on YouTube, and Stephen Cronin's tutorials. But yeah, Rick S. makes great use of the spray bottle. I'll have to go through my books to see if Zoltan Szabo used the spray bottle. So he had some weird, well, not weird, but like his scraping technique was a palette knife, or he would use it for paint application, a palette knife. Well, nowadays we often use a credit card for scraping. So I wonder if you ever use that one. Okay, so now I think we're at the stage where we can start doing kind of thick, unique trees. And we're still solely in the burnt umber phthalo blue color scheme. How long we're going to stay in this one? I would like to stay in it for the whole video. And I know that, well, let me know what you think. Because some people, when there's kind of a nice touch of, let's say, ultramarine, they might say, oh, that ultramarine really pops, or that cerulean is really working out well with it. And in this case, we have some of the blue popping through. Let me know down below if you think that it helps or hinders. I personally, if you watch a lot of these videos, like to paint dark and moody. And I am a fan of just solely burnt umber. And oftentimes I have a little bit of difficulty allowing those pops of color to take place. So I consider myself a tonalist painter. Not in the sense of just like monochromatic or anything like that, but kind of low-key, moody paintings with low light sources, things like that. Tonalism was a art movement that was kind of the redheaded stepchild of, or stepbrother of Impressionism. You had brush strokes that you could see, just like Impressionism. You had you know, that painterly touch. But Impressionism, high key, tonalism, low key. And I know sometimes it's very easy to bicker about different art movements or how something falls into place or what somebody was or wasn't. But it really does help us learn in the vein that like chiaroscuro or like tenebrism or things like that. If you like that, it makes it a lot easier for you to know those terms or know that those things exist, to research and look up and find more of those painters that you like. So for every one Rembrandt, like how many painters were there that we just don't really know about? I mean, their stuff might be in museums, but there's only so many names that, you know, you can compile into our heads. It's a nice, dark, moody feel. It has less of a fog effect than the Payne's Gray painting, which is interesting. The approach was very, very similar. One thing that I'm battling in this one is that we've been staying wet and wet throughout it, and that there's some areas where you get that quite a bit of diffusion. So I'm trying to add more depth and feeling to those pieces. Let some areas stay soft, some areas start popping out. Little ground brush, so I'm just side brushing. We'll probably do a dry off in a moment. There we go. Let me pause this, we'll dry, we'll see how the tonal shift looks. Fortunately, this light right here gives a glare right there. I'm gonna have to, it does it for oil paintings too. Let me pause this. Okay, we should be dry enough. We did have some softening take place. Not too bad. Now I'm just putting out more burnt umber. I'm gonna try to get some nice thick mixes. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, I had started playing with phthalo blue after reading a few years ago some books by James Fletcher Watson, who I greatly admire. Really just a fantastic painter. Fortunately deceased, but he had put out some great paintings, and just really loved his work, and I really liked reading and following along with it. A lot of his books can be found on eBay and Amazon used. You could probably find some of them for $3 to $5. Anyway, with Ron Ranson had a palette who consisted of the primary blue was ultramarine, and from that he mixed his pigments and paints. And then in his book on skies, I believe he added cerulean to it. Anywho, Ron Ranson was more ultramarine blue. He was very simplified palette. James Fletcher Watson had ultramarine blue on his, and he also had the phthalo blue, which I think used to be called Winsor blue, or some companies, or Windsor still calls it Winsor blue. Anyway, I believe it was invented as a replacement for Prussian blue, which Prussian blue has a tendency to shift in tonality when exposed to light for extended periods of time. It will lighten up, and then if you put it in a dark place, like a painting that's Prussian blue in a dark place for a few days or like a few weeks, it'll darken back up. I'm not sure why that happens. I've been experimenting with cyanotype printing process, alternative photography, and I want to make a video on that, and then I want to ask you guys if you want me to continue making videos on that, because I'm really enjoying that process. Anyway, James Fletcher Watson had the ultramarine, excuse me, and the phthalo blue on his palette, and he used his ultramarine for his more background mixes, and the phthalo blue for the more forefront mixes. So I always thought of ultramarine with the earth tones as your grays and stuff, and your phthalo blue with the earth tones as your darks and your dark greens. I'm going to grab some of this, bring in some foliage from the side. If this was to be matted, this edge would be covered up, but I do like a little bit coming off the side. Push some of that around. We could probably give ourselves 1 or 2 dark trees on that far edge and accentuate some points, but going across the whole back might be overdoing it. So let's put one guy right here. A little dry brush for his reflection. Throw a second one back here too. Could even have something come off the side. We'll see how that looks. Once again, a mat would cover to about here, but we might benefit from that. At first I was hesitant when I had asked the question about the blues, when I had said, what do you think about some of that blue showing through? I wasn't really liking it, but now I'm kind of really enjoying just this 2-color combination. I think, you know, for the motif, it gives a different feel, different foggy feel, but it just has a different warmth that the Payne's Gray Burnt Sienna did not have. I'm gonna pause the camera to dry off this, put out some white gouache, and I want to look up a picture of a swan so I can kind of get the shape correct. Now, I have white gouache by Da Vinci brand. I'm a big fan of Da Vinci brand paints and gouache. I think the price point is perfect. A little bit of issues with the opacity on the white, but I'll take it. I pulled up some pictures on Google Images of just some swans, just to kind of get that shape to take place. Now my thing is with this is that the swan has the colored beak, which vermilion would look beautiful for a beak. And that makes me think of John Singer Sargent, how he would add a little bit of vermilion in his painting somewhere. And I think Turner did the same thing, a little bit of that red. And that would just be really nice. Thinking we'll just put it using kind of the thirds rule. I think there's a thirds rule where you say 3 pieces, 3 pieces. It'd be about here. And we'll just put the swan there. Kind of shave out the back. I'm going to have its head come up. Oh, I didn't mention, you are more than welcome to follow along with any one of my tutorials. And, oh, my light went out. And sign your name to it, and sell anything that you do whenever you follow one of these videos. Reason being, I want you guys to be successful. Art supplies are expensive, and you know, that's just a really good way to start, you know, growing and cultivating other artists. That being said, if you want to support this channel, you can do that by liking and subscribing. I have a Patreon that you can sign up for. I have some exclusive content on there, and that's a great way to, like I said, support the channel and help with art supplies. And of course, you could help, you know, if there's other ways you'd like by buying art and things like that, let me know. I have a Etsy account, and yeah. Let's see, that should give us an interesting reflection for him or her. I don't know if swan is a general term for the animal, like, you know how there's like a chicken would be a female. I'm not up on my birds. Okay, this is the black by the beak. That eye might be a little too dark. Push it forward a little bit. And let's see if we could grab a little bit of vermilion off the palette. Might have to pull out vermilion gouache. I have a gouache palette that I've set up. And I have some vermilion gouache right here. I'm just reconstituting it. I really think that color would look great if I can get it out. Oh, way too much. Well, I talked about splattering. I have to dry that spot because it's spreading. We do a quick dry off. All right, so the wetness of the spot and the consistency of the re-wetted gouache was hurting me. That's why I had to do that. Put that right there. And I'll even put a little bit of that beak reflection there. Okay, we'll sign it, see how it looks underneath the mat. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think down below. I'm going to continue exploring this motif, especially with 2 colors, and let me know what 2 colors or 3 colors you think would look best for this. And I was so excited to do some gouache splattering, but I guess that'll be for next time. I hope you enjoyed. Talk to you all soon. Have a great day. Stay safe.